The Awakening. The Nexus Council's Grand Chamber fell silent as High Administrator Vexera rose from her crystalline throne. Her iridescent scales shimmered under the light of 3 moons visible through the chamber's transparent dome. The assembled representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations waited with bated breath for her announcement. "We have found them," she declared, her melodic voice carrying across the vast chamber. "After millennia of searching, we have finally located the descendants of the astral warriors." Murmurs rippled through the gathering. Some delegates exchanged worried glances, while others leaned forward with keen interest. The astral warriors were more than legend. They were the stuff of nightmares for some species and objects of reverence for others. "They call themselves humans," Vexera continued, activating a holographic display of Earth. "They reside on a world in the spiral arm of what they call the Milky Way. For centuries, we have watched them develop, waiting for the right moment to make contact." Ambassador Krell, a representative of the Syndicate Worlds, raised his crystalline appendage. "High Administrator, with all due respect, are we certain? These humans appear primitive compared to many council races. Their technology is centuries behind ours." Vexera's silver eyes narrowed. "Their technological advancement is irrelevant, Ambassador. The power flows in their blood, dormant but undeniable. Our sensors have detected the energy signatures that match the ancient records. They are the ones we have sought." Dr. Sarah Chen stood at her observatory in the Atacama Desert, her eyes fixed on the strange readings her instruments were detecting. Something massive had just appeared in high Earth orbit, something that didn't match any known satellite or space debris patterns. Before she could alert her colleagues, every screen in the facility flickered to life. The face that appeared was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Beautiful and alien, with silvery scales and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. "People of Earth," the being spoke in perfect English, "I am High Administrator Vexera of the Nexus Council. We come in peace, bearing news that will forever change your understanding of your place in the cosmos." Within hours, the world's governments scrambled to respond. Military forces were placed on high alert, but the visitors made no aggressive moves. Their massive ships hung in orbit like silent sentinels, waiting. Admiral James Harrison stood in the United Nations emergency session, his weathered face grave as he addressed the assembled leaders. "The alien vessel's technology is beyond anything we've ever encountered. Our most advanced weapons would be useless against them. If they wanted to attack, we'd already be defeated." In the following days, as diplomatic channels were established, Vexera revealed more about humanity's true heritage. According to their records, Earth had once been home to a race of beings known as the Astral Warriors, creatures of immense power who could bend the very fabric of space and time to their will. But something had happened. A great catastrophe had forced these beings to seal away their power, embedding it within their own genetic code. They became human, their abilities dormant, waiting for the day they would be needed again. Dr. Chen worked tirelessly with a team of international scientists to verify the Nexus Council's claims. The evidence was compelling. Mysterious genetic markers in human DNA that defied explanation, ancient artifacts that pulsed with unexplained energy, and historical accounts of seemingly impossible feats of human capability. As the truth began to sink in, humanity grappled with its implications. They were not just another species finding its way among the stars. They were the heirs to a legacy of power that both thrilled and terrified them. But Vexera and the Nexus Council's benevolent facade masked darker intentions. In their secure chambers, away from human observers, the High Administrator's true plans unfolded. The humans must not know the full truth, she instructed her inner circle. Not yet. Their power must be awakened gradually, controlled, directed. The galaxy has known peace for too long. It is time for a new order, and humanity's sleeping warriors will be our sword. Unknown to the Nexus Council, humanity's dormant powers were already stirring. In cities across Earth, people began reporting strange phenomena. Objects moving without being touched, mysterious lights, and dreams of ancient battles among the stars. The awakening had begun, but not in the way the Nexus Council had planned. Humanity's warrior heritage would indeed return, but who would control that power? And to what end? Remained to be seen. Hidden potential. In the weeks following the Nexus Council's arrival, Earth became a planet of whispers and wonders. Dr. Sarah Chen's laboratory had become ground zero for studying the unprecedented changes occurring in human physiology worldwide. Her team worked around the clock, documenting cases that defied scientific explanation. "It's happening faster than they predicted," she muttered, reviewing the latest data streams. Reports flooded in from every continent, people discovering abilities that should have been impossible. A construction worker in Brazil had survived a 30-story fall without a scratch. A young girl in Kenya could now perceive events before they happened. A researcher in Antarctica found he could generate heat from his hands at will. Admiral Harrison stood at the window of his Pentagon office, watching a demonstration that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Below, in a secured testing facility, soldiers were developing abilities that transformed them from elite warriors into something approaching the supernatural. Their training exercises now included manipulating energy fields and enhancing their physical capabilities beyond human limits. "Sir," his aide interrupted, "we have a situation in Nevada. One of our test subjects, the power surge was off the charts." In the Nexus Council's observation vessel, Vexera watched the mounting evidence of humanity's awakening with growing concern. The energy signatures were exponentially stronger than their models had predicted. Her subordinate, Krell, approached with the latest reports. "High Administrator, the humans are progressing too rapidly. Their power levels are increasing at an unprecedented rate. Some are already approaching Category 3 capabilities without any formal training." Vexera's silver eyes narrowed. "Implement containment protocols. We cannot risk losing control at this stage." But humanity's awakening had taken on a life of its own. In a small town in Montana, Maria Winters discovered her ability during a moment of crisis. When a runaway truck threatened a group of schoolchildren, she reached out instinctively. Time seemed to slow, and with a thought, she redirected the vehicle's momentum, saving dozens of lives. The incident was caught on camera, going viral within hours. The Nexus Council's carefully constructed narrative began to unravel. Humans were not just accessing the basic powers they had inherited. They were innovating, combining abilities in ways the ancient records had never predicted. Each awakened individual seemed to manifest powers uniquely suited to their personality and circumstances. Dr. Chen's research revealed something extraordinary. The dormant genes weren't simply activating. They were evolving. Humanity wasn't just reclaiming their heritage. They were surpassing it. "The patterns are clear," she explained to a classified UN committee. "Our ancestors may have been astral warriors, but what we're becoming is something entirely new. The Nexus Council's data is outdated. They don't understand what they've unleashed." In their secure chambers, the Nexus Council's inner circle faced a growing crisis. "The humans are not following the predicted awakening patterns," Krell reported. "Their abilities are manifesting in ways our protocols never accounted for. They're adapting." Vexera's composed facade cracked slightly. "Deploy the suppression fields. We must maintain control until the final phase can be implemented." But Earth's military leaders had begun to suspect the Council's true intentions. Admiral Harrison met secretly with representatives from other nations' armed forces. The evidence was mounting that the Nexus Council's guidance was actually an attempt to contain and direct humanity's awakening for their own purposes. "They're afraid," Harrison told the assembled leaders. "Not of what we were, but of what we're becoming. Every attempt they make to control the awakening process is being naturally countered by human adaptation and innovation." In orbit, the Nexus Council's ships began deploying a network of satellites, ostensibly to monitor and protect Earth during this crucial phase. But Dr. Chen's instruments detected something more sinister: energy patterns designed to dampen and redirect human abilities. The Council hadn't come to Earth to help humanity reclaim their heritage. They had come to ensure that humanity's awakening served their purposes, but they had miscalculated badly. The power of the astral warriors hadn't simply been preserved in human DNA. It had evolved, adapted, become something new and unpredictable. As the suppression network neared completion, more humans began experiencing vivid dreams, memories not just of ancient battles, but of the true reason their ancestors had sealed away their power. It hadn't been done out of fear or necessity, but as a calculated decision to allow their power to evolve naturally, free from the manipulation of those who would use it for their own ends. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy. Humanity's hidden potential wasn't just awakening. It was surpassing anything the Nexus Council had imagined, and their attempts to control it were about to backfire spectacularly. The deception revealed. The truth emerged not with a whisper, but with a thunderclap. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in her laboratory, her hands trembling as she reviewed the decoded data stolen from the Nexus Council's secure networks. The holo displays surrounding her told a story far different from the one Vexera had presented to Earth. "They'd done this before," she whispered to Admiral Harrison, who stood grimly beside her. "We weren't the first race of warriors they found. We're just the first to survive their awakening process." The stolen files revealed a pattern spanning thousands of years. The Nexus Council had spent centuries searching for species with dormant warrior genes, claiming to help them reclaim their heritage. But in every previous case, the awakening process had been deliberately manipulated to burn out the host species, turning them into living weapons that eventually destroyed themselves. In orbit, aboard the Nexus Council's flagship, Vexera received the alert that their secure networks had been compromised. Her silver eyes flickered with anger as she realized how deeply the humans had penetrated their systems. "Begin the harvesting protocol," she commanded. "We can no longer wait for the natural progression." But humanity had already begun to move against them. Around the world, awakened humans had started dismantling the Council's suppression network. Maria Winters, the woman who had stopped the runaway truck, now led a team of awakened individuals in destroying the orbital dampening satellites. The Nexus Council's true face was revealed as their ships opened fire on Earth's major cities. Yet their weapons found only empty targets. Humanity had anticipated the betrayal. Underground bunkers and hidden facilities, prepared in secret, now housed Earth's populations, protected by shields generated by awakened humans working in concert. Admiral Harrison coordinated the global response from a hidden command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. "They wanted weapons," he told the assembled military leaders, "but they helped us become something far more powerful. We've become protectors." The truth about humanity's ancestors became clear through the genetic memories that now flooded through the awakened. The astral warriors hadn't been simple soldiers. They had been guardians of life itself, wielding their power not for conquest, but for protection. They had sealed their abilities away not in defeat, but in preparation for a time when they would be needed most. Dr. Chen's research revealed the final piece of the puzzle. The Nexus Council isn't a governing body, she explained to the emergency session of world leaders. They're parasites, moving from species to species, attempting to create the perfect warrior race they can control. But our ancestors knew they were coming. They encoded a warning in our DNA, along with the tools we'd need to fight back. In space, the Council's fleet faced something they had never encountered in all their millennia of manipulation: unified resistance. Awakened humans demonstrated abilities that transcended simple combat powers. They could coordinate across vast distances, share strength, and adapt their abilities to counter any weapon the Council deployed. Vexera's composure finally shattered as she watched her carefully laid plans crumble. "Impossible," she hissed as reports of human victories flooded in. They were supposed to be controllable. Their powers should have burned them out by now. But humanity had surpassed all the Council's models and expectations. The very attempts to control and suppress their awakening had forced them to evolve in ways the Council had never imagined. Each human's abilities were unique, yet they could work together in perfect harmony, creating effects that defied the Council's understanding of physics itself. In a desperate gambit, Vexera ordered her flagship to prepare the Council's ultimate weapon, a device designed to forcibly drain and harvest the power from an entire species at once. But as the weapon powered up, something unprecedented occurred. Across Earth, millions of awakened humans joined their consciousness into a singular purpose. The genetic memories of their ancestors guided them, showing them how to combine their abilities in ways not seen since the height of the Astral Warriors' civilization. The Council's weapon fired, a beam of unimaginable power lancing toward Earth. But it met a shield unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Not a barrier of energy, but a wall of pure human will, strengthened by the combined determination of billions. In that moment, as the Council's ultimate weapon shattered against humanity's united defense, the true scope of the deception was laid bare for the entire galaxy to see. The Nexus Council's carefully crafted image of benevolent leadership crumbled, revealing the parasitic manipulators they had always been. But humanity's response wasn't one of vengeance. Instead, they demonstrated the true heritage of the Astral Warriors, the power to protect, to heal, and to build. The awakening hadn't created weapons. It had created guardians, exactly as their ancestors had intended. Warriors unleashed. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as humanity unleashed their full potential. The Nexus Council's failed weapon attack had done more than just reveal their true nature. It had triggered something deep within human DNA, a final failsafe left by their ancestors. Dr. Sarah Chen watched in awe as new data flooded her instruments. The readings were off every chart she had. "It's like watching a supernova in slow motion," she breathed. "But instead of destruction, we're seeing creation." Across Earth, the remaining dormant powers within humanity awakened all at once. But this wasn't the chaotic explosion the Council had hoped to trigger and harvest. This was something else entirely: controlled, purposeful, evolutionary. Admiral Harrison stood at the command center, watching as millions of golden threads of energy connected awakened humans worldwide. The sight reminded him of a neural network, each point of light representing a human being, now part of something greater than themselves. Maria Winters, floating high above the Earth's atmosphere without any need for protection, reached out with senses that transcended normal human perception. "They're coming," she communicated to the Global Defense Network, the Council's entire fleet. Vexera had called in every ship at her disposal. Thousands of vessels emerged from hyperspace, weapons primed. The High Administrator's voice crackled across all frequencies. "You have rejected our guidance. Now you will witness the consequence of such defiance." But humanity was ready. The powers they now wielded weren't just those of their astral warrior ancestors. They had evolved into something new. Each human's abilities complemented those around them, creating synergies that even their ancestors hadn't dreamed possible. Dr. Chen had discovered the truth in those final moments before the full awakening. Our ancestors didn't just seal their powers away, she explained to the world's leaders. They encoded them to evolve, to adapt based on the challenges their descendants would face. We're not just awakening to what they were, we're becoming what they knew we'd need to be. The Council's fleet opened fire, a barrage that should have devastated Earth's defenses. Instead, their energy weapons were caught in fields of pure thought, redirected, transformed. Humanity wasn't just defending, they were rewriting the rules of what was possible. Awakened humans moved through space without ships, their bodies protected by fields of pure energy. They didn't fight as individuals, but as a unified force, each person instinctively knowing their role in the greater whole. The Council's weapons proved useless against defenses that adapted faster than they could attack. Some humans demonstrated the ability to fold space itself, teleporting Council ships into carefully prepared containment fields. Others showed mastery over energy and matter, disabling weapons systems with a thought. Still others displayed powers of healing and protection, ensuring that not a single human life was lost in the battle. Vexera watched in horror as her fleet was systematically neutralized, not destroyed. Humanity wasn't interested in revenge. Instead, they were doing something far more devastating to the Council's plans. They were showing the galaxy a better way. The other species that made up the Council's forces began to stand down, their crews finally seeing the truth. The Council hadn't brought order to the galaxy. They had stifled it, prevented it from reaching its true potential. Admiral Harrison received reports from across the solar system as the battle turned into something else entirely. Awakened humans were making contact with the crews of the Council ships, sharing not just knowledge but understanding. The very power that the Council had tried to harvest and control was being freely shared, helping others begin their own natural awakening. Dr. Chen's instruments recorded it all as humanity demonstrated what the true heritage of the astral warriors had been meant for. Not conquest, not weapons, but growth, evolution, protection, the power to nurture rather than destroy. The Council's flagship hung motionless in space, surrounded by a field of golden energy. Inside, Vexera faced the truth she had spent millennia trying to control. Humanity hadn't just awakened, they had transcended. The power she had tried to harvest couldn't be controlled because it was never meant to be a weapon. Maria Winters led a team of awakened humans onto the Council's flagship. They moved through its corridors not as conquerors but as liberators. The ship's crew, seeing the truth through the shared consciousness that humanity now offered, laid down their weapons. But the greatest revelation was yet to come. As humanity's unified consciousness expanded through the galaxy, they began to sense others. Dormant species whose potential had been suppressed by the Council's influence. The true purpose of their awakening became clear. They weren't meant to be the galaxy's warriors. They were meant to be its awakeners. A new dawn. 1 year after the fall of the Nexus Council, the galaxy pulsed with new life. The Grand Chamber that had once housed the Council's manipulative leadership now served as a gathering place for representatives of awakening species from across the stars. At its center stood Dr. Sarah Chen, her presence radiating the calm confidence that had become characteristic of awakened humanity. "We were never meant to be weapons," she addressed the assembled beings, her words carrying through both sound and the shared consciousness that now connected sympathetic species. "We were meant to be catalysts." The evidence was undeniable. Under humanity's guidance, dozens of species had begun their own awakening processes, each unique, each evolving in ways that suited their own nature. The genetic memories humanity had unlocked revealed the true purpose of the astral warriors. They had been the first awakeners, seeding the galaxy with potential that would take millennia to flower. Admiral Harrison, now serving as Earth's representative to the new Galactic Coalition, watched from his position as ships of various species moved freely through space. Some used traditional propulsion, others moved by thought alone, and still others traveled in ways that defied traditional physics. The diversity of evolution that the Council had tried to suppress now flourished. Maria Winters had established the first awakening academy on Earth, where representatives from other species came to understand their own dormant potential. "Every species awakens differently," she explained to her diverse students. "Our role isn't to shape your power, but to help you discover what you were always meant to become." The former Council worlds, freed from centuries of manipulation, experienced their own renaissance. Species that had been kept in artificial competition now found ways to complement each other's strengths. The power that the Council had tried to harvest as a weapon proved to be something far more valuable, a force for connection, understanding, and growth. Deep in her laboratory, Dr. Chen continued to document the ongoing evolution of human abilities. The initial warrior aspects had transformed into something far more sophisticated. Humanity had become living bridges between species, capable of understanding and facilitating the awakening of others. Their power wasn't in destruction, but in creation, not in domination, but in elevation. Vexera, the former High Administrator, had been given a choice rather than punishment. She now resided in a special facility where she could witness firsthand the flowering of the power she had tried to control. Many of her kind had chosen to undergo their own natural awakening, discovering abilities they had denied themselves in their quest to harvest power from others. The galaxy itself seemed to respond to the wave of awakenings. Stars burned brighter, space itself became more navigable, and the barriers between species fell away as each discovered their unique way of perceiving and interacting with the universe. The power that the Council had tried to weaponize proved to be the universe's own evolutionary drive, expressing itself through countless forms of life. Admiral Harrison stood at a window in the new Coalition headquarters, watching Earth rotate slowly below. "We thought we were reclaiming our heritage," he mused to his alien colleagues, "but we were actually fulfilling it. Every species in this galaxy has the potential to evolve beyond their current limitations. We're just the ones meant to help them discover that truth." The ancient astral warriors, it turned out, hadn't been warriors at all. They had been guardians of evolution itself. Their descendants, humanity, had finally understood and embraced that role. The power wasn't in the ability to destroy or dominate, but in the capacity to protect and nurture the development of others. As the last remnants of the Council's suppression networks were dismantled across the galaxy, new forms of life and consciousness began to emerge. Species that had been deemed primitive by the Council showed remarkable abilities once freed from artificial constraints. The galaxy was awakening, not to war or conquest, but to the true potential that had always existed within its living beings. Dr. Chen's final report to the Coalition summed up what humanity had learned. We were never sleeping war gods. We were dormant gardeners, waiting for the right moment to help the galaxy bloom. Our power isn't in what we can destroy, but in what we can help create. The journey of awakening never truly ends. It just reveals new horizons to explore together. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, as if responding to the unleashed potential of countless species beginning their own journeys of discovery. The age of suppression was over. The era of awakening had begun.